Howdy, this is Lemmy with Revzilla. Welcome to our Sportster modification series. Now, some of you guys may remember we had a chance to review a 2016 Harley Davidson Sportster Iron. I had that thing out in Sin City and I had a good time on it. We liked it so much, in fact, we decided to pick one up when we got back out here in Philly to make sort of a shop runaround motorcycle. So what we're going to do is have a whole modification series based on the Harley Sportster. Now, those of you who are familiar with the Sportster know that this is an iconic motorcycle, but it does have some drawbacks and shortcomings which can be fixed with some aftermarket parts. Now, you guys should know a couple things about this series. First, we're not going to rip this thing down to the frame and totally redo the bike. Instead, we're going to augment what's already here with some bolt-on items and switch some parts out to make the bike generally a little bit more usable. One of the other things I want you to know too is that if you see us use a part on here, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the winner. This isn't a shootout. Instead, this is just sort of an opportunity for us to explore some of the different parts that exist for the Sportster, bang, 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 right in a row, and kind of get a feel for how they perform relative to each other. Recognize though, when we choose a part that might wind up on here, we're considering both our riding style for this bike, and we're also going to consider too the general overall aesthetic appeal. There's not a clear-cut winner here. Now, our modification series is going to kick off with a time-honored modification many Sportster owners make over the years, and that's going to be with exhaust. You want to make your Harley sound like a Harley. So the first thing we're going to do is get a set of pipes onto this. So step over here with me. I want to show you some of the stuff that's available for your Sportster. Now, when we're looking at Sportster exhaust, things break down really into two categories. You've got your full system exhaust, and this is going to replace every piece of the factory exhaust. Those of you who are looking to make your bike faster or produce more power, you want to look at a full system exhaust because these can help you get other power adders to perform a little bit better. So if you're considering, say, a big bore kit or maybe a wild set of cams, these are going to help you get the most out of the other power adders. Now, for those of you who are looking for a little more economical solution, you might want to look into something like a set of slip-on mufflers. You're going to get the same great looks and awesome sound that a full system will give you, but you're not going to get so much help in the horsepower department. So these can be great for those of you who are looking for a reduced price, but you still want to get a little bit of bark out of your motorcycle. Now, I'm ready to get my tools out. While I'm doing that, make sure you subscribe to us so you can see the entire modification series roll out that we're doing here at Revzilla.com. Let's get cracking. Alrighty, so I'm going to wrestle this muffler off of here, get this puppy over here. Now keep in mind, installing a slip-on exhaust onto your Harley Sportster is a 1 beard in our BSD, our beard scale of difficulty. It's not really all that difficult to swap out a set of mufflers. You really need very basic hand tools and not much time to get the job done. Now keep in mind, this isn't going to be a full breakout installation video, but if you need the full soup to nuts pull on how to swap out mufflers on your Harley, we have a couple of different slip-on videos which I encourage you to check out. However, while we're here, let me give you a quick shop tip that's sporty specific. On our 16 Sportster, this is going to be a fairly simple swap. We're just going to pull off the old muffler and put on the new one. However, if you're working on an older Sportster, you may notice that there's an area on your muffler that accepts a crossover gasket because the bracket that holds up your muffler may also be a crossover tube with exhaust traveling in and out of it. You're going to want to replace the gaskets every time you remove mufflers on there so you don't introduce an exhaust leak to your motorcycle. I'm going to finish knocking out this installation with these aftermarket mufflers, and then we're going to get this sporty fired up. Oop. Alright, we got these Cobra slip-ons on the bike. As you saw, install was a breeze on these things. Now, I'm really digging the sound on these, and one of the things I like about the Cobra slip-ons here is the fact they do have those double-wall chrome tips. They look great, and no one's going to mistake these for a different type of muffler. The fact they're rotatable sort of is icing on the cake. Now, when it comes to the finish, I do like the way the black finish looks, but I will ding Cobra a little bit here. It's not an exact match for the black finish on the heat shields. It looks fine at 5 or 10 feet, but when you get up close, you can tell it's not exactly the same finish. Something to notice. Now, from experience, I'm going to say black exhausts tend to not hold up nearly as well as other finishes like chrome or stainless. So I don't know if these are going to be appropriate for the type of riding we're going to be doing. I'm sure we're going to curb jump this puppy once or twice, and we're probably also going to take it off-road a little bit. I like these, but I want to try a set of Reinhardts, so I'm going to get those on right now.
those Cobra mufflers out for a set of Reinhardt slip-ons. Now, first impressions. These things are considerably louder than the Cobras, and they're also quite a bit bassier. One of the things I also noticed too, though, is I'm getting a little bit of a tinny sound out of these as well, so that's something to consider. Ultimately, I've said it before, but I think we've just proven a point here. If you're buying a set of slip-ons, check out the ones that sound and look best to you, and you're probably going to be happy. For instance, I really like the chrome finish on these, although aesthetically some other people may have some different thoughts. Now, at this stage, I'm going to head back into the shop. We're going to talk full system exhaust. We're looking to make a little bit more power on this motorcycle because it is an 883. The other thing I'm hoping to pick up too is just a little bit of ground clearance.
You've just seen and heard what a set of aftermarket mufflers can do for your average rock stock Sportster. But let's not forget, Revzilla is picking up the tab on this, so rather than just call it a day on a slip-on system, I want to try some of the full system options we have here as well. Now, installing a full system exhaust, not terribly difficult. I'm going to call this either a difficult 1 beard or an easy 2 beard on our BSD, our beard scale of difficulty. If you have a modicum of common sense and a decent toolbox, you should be able to get a full system onto your bike in your own garage fairly simply. If you're uncertain whether or not you can tackle the task though, check out our full system exhaust installation video where we actually performed a full system install on a Sportster. It should give you a rough idea of what you're going to need skill-wise and tool-wise to get the job handled. Now, while this is not an installation video, there are some philosophical tips and tricks I'd like to discuss before we keep moving. Step around here with me to the workbench. The first item you can see up here is a set of exhaust gaskets, and if you take a look at these are reasonably destroyed, and that's because I pulled them out of our bike. These are used gaskets. I'm going to make the recommendation that you replace your exhaust gaskets every time you have an exhaust on or off your motorcycle. They're really inexpensive, and when you consider the time it takes to put an exhaust up onto the bike, coming back later and finding out you have an exhaust leak means that trying to save these is really just a false economy. So we actually sell a couple different types here at Revzilla, and I want to point out some of the favorites I have. First are these Vance & Hines exhaust gaskets. I love the way these fit, they seal up great. As far as I'm concerned, these are among the best in the aftermarket. One of the other kits we sell too is by James Gaskets. Now, not only do these kits include the exhaust gaskets themselves, but you'll see that this is a little more comprehensive kit. We've also got replacement spring clips for the flanges on the exhaust, and there's also a set of heavy-duty nuts in here. They come in both a nicer chrome setup and also these heavy-duty ones. This is going to be a particularly good buy for those of you who are on older Sportsters, specifically because some of your hardware can wear out, and James has all the stuff you need in the box to refresh your existing system. Continuing on down here, let's talk about oxygen sensors and fuel injection, because that's something a lot of you are going to have to contend with. Now, depending on how old your Sportster is, you may be working with oxygen sensors on your bike if it's a fuel-injected motorcycle. Now, one of the things that most exhaust manufacturers will do is put an exhaust port right there into the pipe, regardless of whether you need it or not. If you have an older carbureted bike, you may see a need for a plug like this in order to plug up that pipe. Those of you who are on really late model machines kind of go the other way. Rather than having a wideband O2 sensor, which is fairly large like the one you can see here, you may have a narrowband oxygen sensor. Those are much smaller. In that case, you may find a need for a reducer. What this is going to do is step down that hole size to allow you to use your factory sensors. Now, I'm happy to report that every full system I opened up had both the plugs and the adapters in the boxes. A lot of the exhaust manufacturers are getting on board with the idea that there's a wide range of people out there using a wide range of years for their Sportsters, and they may need different pieces in order to complete the installation. Now, the final piece of things you're going to see up here is a Vance & Hines Fuel Pack FP3. When you're putting a full system exhaust in your bike, you're going to need to modify the fuel system. You have to correct your air-fuel ratio. Now, I elected to use the FP3. It's very simple. We plugged it in really quickly. You can use a smartphone to change your fuel settings right on the bike, but there's a myriad of options available. It is something you want to consider, though, because it's an additional cost you're going to have to consider when you're buying your exhaust, and it also requires just a little bit of time to get your tune right. Better fuel controllers can cut that time down, but you should leave a little bit of time on the job, not just to install the exhaust itself, but also to sort of test and tune. Put a fuel controller on there, take it out for a spin, and see how the bike is actually performing, and make adjustments from there. Now I'm ready to take this baby off the lift. Let's get outside and see what a full system exhaust is going to do for our Sportster.
Comp S system you can see on the bike now had a really interesting sound profile. I was struck as soon as we turned this on by how quiet it was. It has a nice rumble to it, but it's not offensive at all. At the opposite end of the spectrum, though, it's very loud on the overrun. So if you're one of those people who likes some burble or a little bit of exhaust popping, a Comp S system might be the way to fly for you. In terms of looks, you can see the stainless on here is already starting to go gold. You're getting that real race look with this thing because of the heat that the exhaust is throwing off. Part and parcel with the stainless exhaust. The one thing I'm maybe a little concerned about is that carbon fiber end cap out back. I'm not sure how that's going to hold up. Over time, carbon fiber can tend to yellow a little bit, so that's something only time will really be able to tell. In terms of performance, I was a little bit surprised. We got a nice bump over stock here, but I think there might be some more power to be found in another exhaust system. So let's go see what's behind full system exhaust door number 2. Alright, this bike is now wearing a set of Vance & Hines grenades. You can see these are a pretty wild looking exhaust on here. Now let's talk about the pros. Finish on this thing, dead ringer for Harley Black. I really like it because it's a full exhaust. It replaces everything. There's nothing to match. Check out back to those tips. We ordered the version that has the satin nickel tips on there. I love it. I think they're killing it on this. It's different than chrome. I'm wondering if this is going to be 2016's version of chrome. So the other big thing here too is the mid-range these pipes are offering. Now, again, we did put a tune on here, so some of that is due to the tuning and some of it is also due to the exhaust, but this bike's got a lot more mid-range pop. This is a really short, light, aggressive exhaust. It's tucked up pretty far. However, there were some negatives that came along with this. If you look up at that top muffler there, you'll notice that the fit isn't the best in the world. This is the second set of grenades we put on a Sportster, and fit has been a little wonky on all of them, so that is something to consider. One of the other things, too, that wasn't so great is that this exhaust looks like a fleshlight. I had to Google what that was. Somebody here told me what it was, and indeed, it looks like a fleshlight. Don't Google that if you're at work. But the good ground clearance here is killer, and I'm also really enjoying the fact these things are short, aggressive, and we drop quite a bit of weight off the bike. Now let's go throw that final exhaust on. What do you say? Alrighty, I've just installed a set of Arlen Ness by Magnaflow low-down pipes on here, as you can see. I was really impressed with the fitment on these. They went on pretty easily, but these are a really nicely crafted exhaust. You can see some details there in the bracketing and the end cap treatment. They definitely took their time when they were thinking about how this exhaust was made. Now, when it comes to looks, you can see these things do blend in very nicely, and they're also aggressively short. This is one of the shortest exhausts I've ever seen. That also is going to affect the volume quite a bit. These are definitely a loud pipe. We're edging into drag pipe territory here. Now, one of the things I wasn't so pleased with was the fact that I think not only did I not gain ground clearance, I think I might have even lost a touch over a set of stock pipes on here. The last thing that remains to be talked about too is performance on these. Now, this is going almost like the textbook exercise in performance. Shorter pipe, these things really wake up at high RPMs. Might be good for those of you on the 883 variant of the Sportster because you're going to be running these bikes out through the gears. All right, let's head back to the shop and talk a little bit.
After having sampled a smattering of 5 different exhausts, I think for me, the standout was the Two Brothers Comp S 2-in-1. Compared to the stock exhaust system, we dropped a lot of weight with this, and it also tucks up nice and tight to the bike. Remember I had said ground clearance is something we're looking for throughout the course of this modification series. I also too like this brushed stainless finish. It's going to be easy to keep this looking clean, and it's going to be durable for the day-to-day shop life that this bike is going to live through. Now, if you need a little bit more information about exhaust in general, click that info button. Check out some of our detailed product breakdowns where we run through some of these exhausts. Another video I think could be particularly helpful for some of you is the exhaust sound comparison video. That video will allow you to both see and hear a couple of different exhausts that we haven't covered here. It'll give you a better idea of the range of stuff that exists for your motorcycle. Be sure to subscribe to us too, so you can catch our second episode where we're going to delve into air cleaners. I'm Lemmy, and I'm out of here.